can pull the paper up there as well as be seen. But I also am streaming on TikTok. So MIT just published a paper on coherent and incoherent light scattering by single atom wave packets. What the fuck? The analog for that is what the Taoist cosmology labels a single grain of millet. A single grain. And in the cosmogram that you are looking at, if you are looking at it, that single grain of millet occurs at Occam. That is the number 2. So MIT, this is the double slit experiment. And the double slit experiment is looking at the apparent dual nature of light as both particle and wave. Oddly enough, I've been contemplating this through sound most of my life because I was a pianist as a kid. And my mother once asked me if the piano was a percussion or string instrument. And I remember saying, it's the one I play. But I guess there are paradoxes, even in the world of music. And I have been jokingly contemplating all of this as now a 5th law of thermodynamics, because I just learned that Isaac Newton's first identity, or what he first identified, was 5 stages of light, or 5 phases of light, which is that upper left-hand corner, that is biotensegrity. And that is where the MIT folks are looking at. It's the same geometry as the crystals they were looking at. I'm just saying, I'm going to have to look up some words. Absolutely. I literally I spent $35 to access this paper. I really do think they may have proven my model. My model assumes that Einstein was right, and that anytime you hit a circle, specifically, especially as it relates to people that were in the Bagua logic, which physics has its own 8-fold path of physics. So that's really nice. Okay. So you're just kind of watching how I check my work, really. Somebody gave me the headline of this. I watched a bit of a YouTube video. I was like, fuck yeah. I think MIT just proved me. So this was a quantum experiment. It was not an experiment in dimension. Dimension is this. Quantum is quantum. I don't understand it. Well, I do, but it's not measurable. So reduced visibility of the pattern of the interference between particles and waves and like perceiving this, they say, is related to which way information. Which way? That is probably this middle geometry in my model, which is Minkowski space, but I don't want to assume that. Interference is only observed for the carrier light whose spectrum is a delta function, whose spectrum changes excitation frequency, how fast things are moving. So the faster something's moving, the higher the tone. Think about like, this is the metaphor. Thank you. Andre, Roar, I haven't seen your little face there in a long time. Hello, hello. Anyway, interference. So they're talking about coherent and incoherent light. And I'm just going to assume that because Einstein is involved, that's going to map to either general or special relativity. But here's where Einstein and I are inverted. I would say that the scatter zone or the scatter experience of celestial bodies is special. He calls this general, or he calls this, wait, I just have a backwards understanding. But the point is, gravity in any kind of a 2D space has to be contemplated as though it's a Mobius. And now we are immediately into the quantum realm with the concept of a Penrose triangle. But the philosophy of it is a negative dialectic, and that shows up where that our friend Heisenberg is, and Occam. Incoherent light. Now let's find out what incoherent light is. Probably me trying to describe something with words. It's light where the waves don't maintain a constant phase relationship over time or space. So incoherent light would be any kind of disruption, any kind of like, I just posted a video on TikTok about if you were in like a movie theater and the light's coming from behind you and it makes those cool like light beam things, but then also you can see the particulates in the air, but then also there's the screen, but then there's so much when our visual experience has more of this back. This is how propaganda is built, by the way, 100%. Propaganda is built to make us experience coherence where there is scatter. But I have been told I don't know the relationship between neuroscience and all these other physicists. Okay, so incoherent light gives rise to radiation, which is emitted from the source in all directions. That is what I would call an array. That's an array. Our whole entire body, our entire fucking structure as humans is a triple triaxial array. But that array, that kind of scatter is, hold on, I don't want to say it's one thing or another, coherence. Oh, I'm so glad passive restraints is here because you're going to help me if I get something wrong. Two beams, we are in coherence. Two potential waves to interfere, and then so that is the part where you get to the party, okay, and everybody's dancing, it's all happening, and you're not like in the groove yet, okay? It just takes you a minute, and then you get in the groove. And if you're a white lady like I am, you do it in, Burning Man, it's an obnoxiousness. Mathematical definition. I don't care about math. Temporal coherence. Temporal coherence is very specific to our temporal lobe. I'm going to give TikTok a different picture, and then I'll see if I have it also on my computer to put on the other ones. But our temporal lobe, temporality, that is our temples, but it's also the inside experience of our inner ears, which operate shockingly through gravity and not light. I know. I was just talking to my therapist today. We have so much sensory experience that has nothing to do with light. Nothing. Most of our sensory experience, once we have had a visual, like an optic, is the whole fucking point of this terror that people have that is no reason to be afraid, which is this idea of a simulation. Hello, Rose. Part of what a simulation is for us as whole humans is being able, or the experience of visualization, imagination, memory, labeling, ranking, naming, identifying. None of that is actually happening like in nature. That's all us. Incoherent from an identical Gaussian wave. Shit, now I have to learn a new word. Gaussian wave. Wikipedia for me usually, because I hate this new AI thing that I'm seeing. Oh, it's squares. Okay. All I need to know is it's squares. Because a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and e equals mc squared. And so these curves they look like just, if this is the x-axis, the curves go like this on the on the image that they're showing. So that might be, woo, that doesn't, oh, Fourier. Okay, wait, I actually have Fourier, hold on. But I think my Fouriers might be a little bit too much for the world. These are, this is the land back lens. I'm going to show TikTok this. And then I'll show the other one this. Just one moment, TikTok. Please give me a moment. This thing comes in. I'm going to put it up. Fourier, this is the ideal for our species, according to Katie. And at this point, I'm just fucking speaking it as fact. It's fact of brain of Katie, okay? It doesn't have to be fact of your experience. But we are really fucking out of alignment to our own horizon on the planet. We have so much technology that gets us off the ground, like literally. We live in skyscrapers, we have airplanes, we have the space station, but we also have stuff that gets us up off the ground chemically. All my friends labeling yourselves as fucking shaman and having lineage and not being respectful to the medicine you're serving. Okay, wait, hold on, where is it? Where is it? Is this it? Is that it? No. The land back is the 14 PNG. Hold on. I will get better at doing these in multiple places, but I refuse to have so many. I just can't do it. My brain is too broken from my stroke. Like I had to fucking literally build a universe from scratch to reorient my brain after experiencing, it's the one where they put the prisoner in the room for 23 hours a day and never let them out, whatever that kind of solitary confinement. My cancer occurred with me in solitary. Right now we're looking at physics. And so I am trying to find this slide for the tubes of the U's, but I don't have it. Okay, but the Fourier, I just like, if it's actually, if I have these things, if I've done it, then I'm at least going to post on my fucking Substack. File, move, wait, duplicate. Thank you. Fourier, R-I-E-R. This is the wood element of Chinese medicine is what I've been trying to get to. Let me move this, and now I can put this up in here. Goodness me. People, this is why I don't do anything with fucking moving pictures. It is, you have to do so much to keep it going. Hello, sir. Oh my goodness, guess who that is? That's Adorla. Okay, forget, I'm so sorry to the TikToks. So the wood element is the numbers 3 and 4 on the low shoe grid. And what these Fourier patterns, these are waveforms, literal waveforms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Assuming there are 6 patterns, these align to the 6 extraordinary organs of Chinese medicine, but they would also align to the 5 phases, plus the triple burner, plus all things nuclear, plus all things evolution, plus all things sentience, not conscious. There's a lot more sentience in the universe than there is consciousness. And so the Fourier, what is a Fourier system? Oh, look at him. He was a Burgundy man. It is a Riemann space. That is all everywhere where physics identifies all things wave or waveform, because that is where we experience our own consciousness and perception. This is Lo Shu 2, 4, Lo Shu 4. The symbol is biotensegrity. Okay, Lo Shu 4. It's the one that looks like fascia. But we experience fascia more than one way. The first way we experience fascia is when we're gestating and we are having an experience in a placenta. That's the first way we experience fascia. And that, that creates like a lived experience for us. It probably also creates some kind of a sentient experience, but we don't have a conscious experience until we're earthside, breathing air, and exchanging the gas, which is what this whole middle layer is, in alignment with our species, which is we breathe air. But other species have other ways of breathing, and other species have other ways of seeing and moving and perceiving. And fascinatingly, we are the only mammal on the planet that experiences menopause. The other mammals that experience menopause are orcas and pilot whales. And if people don't think that influences how we understand ourselves as a species, yeah, orcas and pilot whales. Riemann geometry. Riemann geometry aligns to mitochondrial DNA. So Riemann geometry aligns to Oppenheimer logic. Escher logic, sanity logic. We get a lot of like weird clusterings of concepts because they're mostly occurring through how we write them into the culture, not necessarily how they're occurring. Oh, did I lie? No, I did not lie to you. Yeah. So our lived experience is the penetrating vessel of Chinese medicine. It's one of the 8 extraordinary vessels. The number 8 is Einstein. My lived experience, that's my cancer experience. So the number 8, Einstein at 8, is because I do not fuck with this shit. And also, I could not make this model work with 7 phases of light. It only works with 5 phases of light. The 7 phases of light are an add-on to what Newton originally identified, because he wanted to make it work with the solfeggio scale of music, which is very, very sweet. He wanted it to turn into an octave. Da, 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 da. So there's 7 notes in a scale. The problem, Isaac Newton, okay, the problem is we do not experience sound with our eyes. We experience sound with our tissues and in our body. And that Heisenberg sphere as quarks, that is an up-down quark. And I know I saw quarks in here. Up-down quarks have a lot to do with like the limitations of a system. In our body, it's our parietal fascia. It's also our parietal lobe. But we experience that balanced in our inner ear, which is, again, not light. That's pressure, that's waves, that's sound. So I've personally never understood why you need light to measure gravity. I mean, can you imagine? That would be the same as saying that the whole reason the universe exists is because it can do math. Like, in 18 billion years, do you think there's an accountant sitting and like, okay, this is what's going to happen? Same with like the way animals interact with each other and create ecosystems in nature. There's not an accountant determining what they have to give up in order to evolve. It's just occurring. And all of these names that physics puts into its own identity creates a bias, but the bias is towards numbers. So you just take the numbers out. The Fourier analysis, this is 1822. Oh, theory of heat, that's nice. I understand this is mitochondrial DNA, these transformations. Because I don't do math, and I figure I have mitochondrial DNA. It would probably fit there. Strictly speaking, all lights, we're looking at, MIT just published that Einstein was wrong. They didn't really publish he was wrong, but they got more specific on that double slit experiment. And they may have, in publishing this, given me a position to claim that I've identified a fifth law of thermodynamics. I mean, I know I've identified it, but I'm not about to, who cares? Do research. And by the way, it's Newton's law. It's Newton and Einstein together because, again, this fucking phase issue. Light is phases. High trick light, speaking of light. And we experience it on land through our eyeballs that have the quality of what our eyeballs have. And that is our bias. But creatures of the sea are also having lived experiences. They're having a light experience, having all that, but that's happening through water. So like, you can't just fucking say, oh, because we can see it, that's what it is. No, I don't know your ex-wife. Okay. Please don't make me have to do a differential equation. Strictly speaking, all light scattering in free space is an inelastic, meaning it's very fixed. So theoretically, light traveling in free space is going to show up as like a beam rather than a cable. Okay, this is tensegrity. All this is tensegrity. If light scatters into all angles, but we can consider each scattering mode Q separately. So again, in order to do your science, you have to start separating the light. And I bet they're separating it Newtonian. I mean, Isaac Newton, yeah. Theoretical, okay, so in the weak excitation limit, the weak limit is the weak bond. Is that the one with the gluons? Or covalent bond is carbon. Hold on, I think I have a slide for this. Okay. No, that's not it. Weak bond. I'm assuming weak bond has to do with the strong and weak bond of nuclear physics. I just saw it. I literally just saw it. That's why we're doing this together. I'm going to have to gather these. Here are my Fouriers. I will show TikTok. I have 6 of them. The 6, oh, cool. I'll be able to assign this to, okay, so that's the first thing I need to do. Map the Fouriers. So I'm going to map the land back to the geometries that are this geometry. It is the one where the beam is in the center, and then each end has 2 attachments, but these are separated. It's a diamond instead of a triangle. That's Fourier. This is very exciting. They loaded 3 times 10 to the ultra cold atoms into a deep optical lattice. Ooh, what's a deep optical lattice? Sounds like a matrix. Yes, actually, Quirky Cosmos, Metatron, the six extraordinary organs, and I guess fermions. Optical lattice is formed at the interface of, oh, it's the egg carton one. Let me make sure that's really it. These are all new words. Atoms trapped in an optical lattice may move due to quantum tunneling, even if the well depth of the atom exceeds the kinetic. Okay, so the lattice they're talking about is the Katie's cube. You know what? Actually, this all started as a cube. It all started, this is based on communicating from the center of a clear lucite cube and using CMY logic to understand bias and position. But also, I was like, if it opens up into pyramids, but the pyramids are isosceles triangles based on the golden triangle. They're not equilateral. We are the golden triangle. That's why we can't measure it. I mean, it's like the simplest explanation, since all the physics is fucking based on Occam. You get this because it's absurd to think that the most obvious answer is the correct one if you're contemplating fucking cosmology. Periodicity of optical lattice can be tuned by changing the wavelength of a laser. Oh, okay. This is the Crystal Palace and the whole experience of something like the way, probably specifically the way that transcendental meditation moves the brain into theta. I'm not coming up with new stuff. MIT just published a paper that might prove me correct with the fifth law of thermodynamics, because this is where I sit in the model. So the model is, that's Escher. This would be Gödel and Gödel-Escher-Bach, but that's just genetics. And this is Bach. So it's genetics, meme or memetics, epigenetics. You don't need to prove fucking gravity or anything to have a family. You don't need to prove anything to exist. The whole concept, this is all the concept of curved arrays. There's a being in the Chinese cosmology I learned about recently who would sit in the position of Occam. Yep, he would sit in the position of Occam. He is the Lord of the Dark Array. He is the dark of cold dark matter, because yes, I did just, it ended up being lambda CDM. But the dark array is, this is you can't see this on, oh, you might be able to, let me see if I can make this happen over here. Hold on. So what TikTok is looking at is me doing a rendering of my auditory experience as it relates to orienting to sanity. And up in the corner there with Einstein as the Bagua, in the middle of that is my trigram that I made for myself at the end of all of this, which just so happens to be cold, dark matter. So the alignment is, it has to do with how China contemplates Earth. And let me see if I can make this come over here easily to, yes. And I'm going to send this to my phone. So we were going to be looking at Lo Shu 6. You're not going to be able to perceive that. Three body problems. I mean, and I'm looking, some of these things I just mapped like last week. I have not sought any of this. What I did is survive some shit that truly, it's remarkable that I survived. It's remarkable that I didn't end up in the hospital 7 times trying to manage my own cancer care. But to do that and be sane, okay, to be in isolation for 2 years and be sane coming out of it is a factor of how I understand media. Chaos Gremlin, what makes you think I haven't been appropriately initiated into every fucking level that I'm bringing forward? How is physics pseudoscience? Do you know how physics organizes itself around its own data? Because I do. Because all it is at this point is big data. This is the Minkowski spread that you're looking at, the middle. That is that, I think a lot of folks would understand that as like the snake eating its tail. But the geometry that I'm showing you is that's the moment in cellular division where our cells multiply by dividing. That is a very weird thing. That is not how we multiply. We multiply through addition. We have babies. Our cells are doing fractals all the time. And so what you see up in that upper corner, the blending with media, that is what happens when we are not paying attention appropriately to where we are in relationship to the media. And this is my training, very deep training I had in the 90s by a protege of Mr. Timothy Leary's, but it was on the edge of having come to, I went to Carnegie Mellon. We're having, I'm regaining some memories right now, so I hope you'll indulge me. Went to CMU. One of the philosophers, one of the political scientists I studied is Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida is the founder of the concept and the practice of deconstruction, which is what all the process of like getting people out of cults, folks who are deconstructing religion. Derrida was doing that with all of society. I forgot that I knew him, okay? Like that I studied him. But his primary concern is the concept of logocentrism. Logocentrism in decolonization parlance is worship of the written word. Cosmologically, it is logocentrism is the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So the central concept is the concept of mirage. And the reason the double slit mirage experiences, I have them positioned in this upper right-hand corner. This is the Occam corner. There are 3 reasons. One is that is our second nerve in our brain, our optic nerve needs to be here. 2, we have an afferent, an efferent, and a blended experience of our own Christmas tree, our own 12 cranial nerves. As a culture, we're very fixated on what we can see, what we can measure, what you show, what you do. And so the default setting is to that which I can measure. That blended space, though, where our neurons in our brain and everything that's helping us exist are doing things like, it's called the central executive network, where we have to like pay attention to tasks, do a thing, do another thing, have a thing, blah, blah, blah. That's where we experience double empathy problems, just living with each other. But perceptually, that is where the double slit experience occurs. And China maps that to our parietal lobe and our visual cortex. And I say China, I'm not even saying Chinese medicine. That's how it's organized. And so that upper right-hand corner as Occam, the contemplation always is mirage, because I think the Chinese understood what it means that water floats when it's frozen much more than we do. Much more. It is the case that we can exist as a species because water floats, but our eyes are water, and water, light, and doesn't go, and even sound, but light especially goes through water differently than it goes through the air. Condensed to one country. Oh, look at that. It's too bad you're queer. You had an ally in me, but you're an asshole, so I'm blocking you. So these 10 ox herding pictures are a way of contemplating dimension and perception. And if you look, you see that blank one, that is the 8th ox herding image. That apparently is when you become enlightened. I learned about this when I was like 19. So I've been aligning Einstein to this 8th ox herding picture, or enlightenment at 8, meaning anytime you're asking a question about gravity or whatever, a whole human, you need to position Earth, not the observer, Earth. And then the question is, where is the observer? And then you're accounting for the double slit. This is the essence of like any kind of interface design that's looking at the front and the back end. It's called kinematic tensegrity. These folks use a different word, but it's very similar. What did I just see it? Harmonic confinement. Crystal atoms, single crystal atoms is the, oh, look at that. Heisenberg just showed up. Let's see where Heisenberg fits in my model. Uncertainty. So they loaded ultra-cold atoms into a deep optical lattice very close to the ground state of some insulator, blah, blah, blah. Okay, ground state. That is just the default setting. We have a default mode network in our brain. They operate in the limit of Rayleigh scattering by using a cycling transition. Who is Rayleigh and why do they scatter? Rayleigh scatter physics. Rayleigh scattering is a phenomenon where light or other magnetism, oh, that's just refraction. That's one of the ways that the law of flippant conservation works. Yes, alchemist, very much. I rebuilt my brain, and as it turns out, you do that through quantum logic. And as it so happens, so has the yoga I've been in for 40 years. Rayleigh scattering is this. It's like when water comes down and it does this. But we have that kind of experience perceptually through mirrors. And through other things. So wait, let me show the humans over here. So this Rayleigh scatter, the pichu, pichu-poo, 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 is, do I have, where's a mirror? Where's the mirror? Here's the mirror. I'll show you on something largely symmetric so I don't make you feel sick. But it's, imagine beams of light, okay? And then as the mirror moves, do you see how so does the reflection in it? Rayleigh scattering. It's happening with lasers. It's happening much smaller. These objects don't change. Yes, the mermaid mirror. But how we understand them and perceive them, I don't know if that's what Rayleigh is doing. Oh, and now they're doing fucking red shift, blue shift, of course. Okay, so that is a phenomenon in physics where you get this. You know what I would love to be on your live. This is playing tennis. And it's not playing tennis, but essentially that's what it is. Something's coming, boom. Yay, a whole new world. So they normalized some factor, because you have to normalize your data, which is more mirage. And the double slit experiment is a mirage experience. S of Q. What is S of Q? Bragg's condition, light scattering, wave packets, for Gaussian wave packets. That was the other one. And so Rayleigh scattering would fit in the Escher corner in my model, which is, or pardon me, well, Oppenheimer, but this is Escher from a Douglas Hofstadter, my boyfriend, perspective. He's been my boyfriend since the 1980s. He never talks to me though. A Gaussian shape, position. I don't know what that is. It's a curve, more curved arrays. More curved arrays. These are all curved arrays. This is some aspect of this is the perceptual experience of when MC Escher, Nostradamus, well, of course I have necromancy in my model. When MC Escher did the art where he's looking at the globe and you can see his reflection in the globe and he's looking at it. Okay. And then they have 2D formulas. I just get frustrated because my autism actually is literal. Okay, so when somebody shows me a fucking computer simulation and tells me it's a 3D model, I go, you are giving me propaganda. Nothing that happens in a computer is dimensional. Nothing. Leonardo da Vinci, retinal arrays. So here's my issue with retinal arrays. And I'm just going to say that because I know a robotics engineer, okay? We do not need to have retinal logic in our robotics. Also, as soon as it's past the optic nerve, it needs to be treated as CMY. That is not my rule. That is the rule of the old fucking hippies and also Buckminster Fuller humans and Carnegie Mellon and Edward Tufte, who's one of the world's leading data visualizers. Like, I was taught you don't fucking just use the very mirage that you're in. Oh, I feel so vindicated right now. An analogous heavier, okay, wait, now I have to look at this. The delta of x time, more squares, experimental observations, semi-quantitative agreement. Semi-quantitative agreement. Semi-quantitative. Not fully quantitative, but semi-quantitative. It's fascinating how like challenging it is for physics to use its own. But that's very much probably like anything that you and I would do where we have blind spots. They use Gedanken. Gedanken? Who's Gedanken? Gedanken. Gedanken. Gedankabunk. Gabunkadonk. Donken. What's a Gedanken? Gedanken. Geist, mind, physics. Ha! Are they using, or did they turn themselves into going through the mirror? Wait, where did I see that? Gedanken experiments. This might be the Alice through the looking glass. Hold on. Come on, show me. I don't want to ask. Thinking physics. It's a theory of mind. They have a whole fucking theory of mind. Hold on. Because if we're at Schrodinger, then I just need to learn how to tear some of these papers up and attach my stuff to it. Which way? Oh, which way? This way, that way. Who's on first? Those are quarks. Gedanken experiments. Gedanken is, do you remember the worm in Labyrinth? And then she goes to the worm, and the worm's like, "Hello, love, what you doing?" I don't know, Malcolm. I have no idea what I was given by institutional psychiatry. I definitely have a lot of trauma and brain damage from a stroke. Yeah. I know anxiety is one of the labels because they always start with that. And then I'm like, yes, because that's the first fucking letter in the alphabet. Gedanken experiment is Schrodinger. So it was used by physicists. Oh, this is lovely. It was used by Einstein to describe his approach of using conceptual rather than actual experiments. Oh, Einstein did it by idea? Einstein did it by idea? I couldn't do differential equations, and that convinced me that I couldn't be a physicist or do AI or any of this. And this invokes fucking Isaac Newton again. I'm very angry at the world for, I don't know what. Nobody noticed my autism. It's Einstein's thought experiment. So the thought experiment, what the thought experiment does for our brain, I believe, is it helps us orient to the default mode network rather than the central executive network. Central executive network is scientific method. Central executive network is we're working with materials. Central executive network is like securing your funding. But the thought experiment is, it orients us this way. And that's how our optic experience is. Our visual cortex is oriented. We are oriented parallel to the horizon, which is the fucking equator, not the sky. Because of lies, Einstein was a theoretical physicist. So am I, although I do it practically. This is how I learned Einstein's theory of relativity. And if you look real close, I put a little bit of magenta on the edges of my Mobius strip. Because that's, once I make the strip, it's one equation with two states, general or relative. But this piece in the middle, the mirage aspect, this is where my stuff fits in. So when I declared that I had solved Einstein, oh, I didn't fucking mirror myself to the TikTok. I'm so sorry. Here. When I declared that I had solved Einstein, I hung this up. It was sat in my, she kept it in my neighborhood coffee shop for like a year. So it says E equals MC squared is on the bottom. This is the first hexagram. This is the hexagram for heaven. This is the one where we're all fucked up. And here I'm coming in with my little magenta, boop-a-doop-a-doo, and my little my yin and my yang, doop-a-doop-a-doo. There's ZitterbartEscherBach as a stack, and here is your default mode network. Oh, look at that, based on the concept of wu-wei. Okay, so Gedanken, man. Maybe I should say I'm a Gedanken physicist. N-fold, like N-brain, harmonic oscillations. I fully fucking intuited all of this. I have never read Einstein. I've read a lot of theoretical physics. I've never read Einstein. Everybody just invokes him, so I figure he must have been a law. Lattice switches, imaging beams. Atoms are held in a cubic lattice with nanometers. Oh, wait a minute. I have nanometers of Newton. I have nanometers of Newton. Where is my Newton nanometer? So Newton's original measurement was 5 phases of light, and then he added 2, so it would go with the scale in music, because he didn't remember the part where you don't see music. Nanometers. 532 puts us in the D5 in the Higgs boson land, and the Earth phase, the Earth element. 532 nanometers. Oh no, that's even better. It's fucking green. It's the W bosons. And now we're into every fucking metaphor of jade anywhere in China as it relates to suffering less. And it's a flat, it's B flat. It's 1 octave above middle C, D flat. I had to turn it into music because, again, I don't understand the physics. I really do. So anyway, I've like self-published 2 books. I did this card, these cards coming out. Hydrogen bonds, protein folding. If protein folds and our brain folds and we can grow infinitely through the folds of our brain, why are we not also contemplating the fact that embryos fold when they're... Oh, hi, thank you for asking. If you do the up da and you go ba-doop, ba-doop, and then it'll take you. I don't know about Einstein suppressing ether. I'm in a system that uses metal and does not use ether. Let me show you. You can't do Einstein with ether. So here's the 5th law of thermodynamics. This is what MIT just published, just helped me prove. I want to bring it up for these other folks. I'm calling it shentropy. I also had to invent shentegrity, such that there was a way to bridge the measurements of Einstein and the realities of, is that it? No, that's not it. I'm using 5 phases. I just needed ways to correct for the 5 phases. Okay, bringing this down now, and then I'll bring it up. Why can't I do that way? Why can't I not do it that way? What was I bringing up? I don't understand how people do this like on the fly. I guess it takes practice. Like anything. 5th law of thermodynamics. So what you're looking at behind me, if you're in the land of, hold on. If you're in the land of TikTok, you're looking at my 5th law of thermodynamics. Thank you. The circle of fifths that you see here is a concept in music. And so what the circle of fifths is, I don't remember how to do it. I just know that you do it. Well, you're in a different system. So the 5 phases, and these are not elements, these are phases. The 5 phases are, let me bring this up. That's kind of sideways for the people that are looking. The 5 phases are earth, fire, water, metal, wood. Sorry, you're going to have to look at it sideways if you're the other thing. So the phases are earth, fire, water, metal, wood. They can operate as an element. They can operate as an entity. It can operate as a constraint. It can operate as logic. It can operate as a location to contemplate things like how much food do you have? How much supply do you have? The reason that I've always stayed with Chinese cosmology is because of the presence of metal. So the way the yoga was given to me is that we don't need anything to do this alchemy because we already have earth, fire, water, metal, wood in our body, specifically as our stomach and spleen, our heart and pericardium, our heart, small intestine, fire, water is kidneys and urinary bladder, wood is liver and gallbladder. So China puts it in our organs. But it's also all these other things. And this earth element, this is called Neidan, Neidan. Anything that you have of mine is Neidan. But the earth element is the one that matters because the way that you do feng shui from a practical perspective is you need to do it oriented to true north. That means I need to know directions in the third dimension. I don't do that. I do not do anything in the third dimension. So I've now moved to the side over on TikTok, but if you look at the squiggle wiggle, the 3 bodies there, that's the Nijing 2, that's the chart of the inner landscape. It's a quantum map of our corpus callosum as I understand it. And I would say it's quantum because I intuited up, down, top, bottom, and charm, strange quarks by applying my adult consent model to this. It's power. This earth element, I have it such that you can't see 2 of the elements because we don't perceive them, or it's impossible for them to experience, for us to experience them as it is. It's like the whole fractal thing. So the earth element is where you place gravity. If you're not doing feng shui, if you're not doing anything in dimension, if you're doing astrophysics, if you're doing medicine, if you're contemplating, if you're doing yoga, none of that is happening in the third dimension. The only thing that happens in the third dimension is whole human. So even our organs, while dimensional and measurable, don't occur in the third dimension. They occur in a human, a living human. Same with our brain. And we have a real problem with how we perceive death, with how we define death. But there have been some brain surgeries that have been very successful over the years for many reasons. The lobotomy is good for population control. There's a surgery called the hemispherectomy, where they literally, like, your brain is split into 2. And there's a surgery called the corpus callostomy, where they slice your corpus callosum if you have a lot of electrical activity happening in your brain across the hemispheres. A lot of people associate death with pain. I associate life with pain. I associate death with the end of pain. But the corpus callostomy was very successful, and people were able to continue about their day, walk about their day, navigate the world, and that became the story of the corpus callosum does right and left, and it doesn't really matter because you can cut it and a person can walk around just fine. our corpus callosum aligns us to the default mode network, which is the ground. So when the corpus callosum first happens and we're not up in fucking spaceships and we don't have global fiber optics and we're not in a 24-hour news cycle and all of this, our corpus callosum doesn't have to work very hard. It can be a street map. But once we have all this media, once we have the data as big as it is, once we have the sight all the way to fucking 15 billion years in the past, once we can see an electron or smaller, if we're not remembering and orienting towards our dimension, which is the dimension of human, not the dimension of 3, there's more mirage. So the way that the phases of Chinese medicine align to the laws of thermodynamics is water aligns to the 0th law. There is a 0th law. Nobody told me. The 0th law was the most recent law identified. And I was like, Chad, why is it called 0th and not 4th? And the Chads of the internet said, Chad is anything search or AI, said that it was such an important law that they gave it the name, the number 0. This is thermal equilibrium. Then the first law of thermodynamics is that law of conservation, which is so often invoked. Energy cannot be created, it is in it, but it's not that. That's the this is the refraction. That's conservation. The only way wood can experience itself as conservation is if it is in a fractal geometry. We do not treat our environment that way. We treat our environment like a factory. So the first law is identified in the mid-1800s. The second law of thermodynamics is the law of entropy, which blah, 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 systems will move towards more entropy. Entropy is very often interpreted as chaos, but in complexity theory and in fractal theory and in multidimensionality realities, this entropic factor is also where something like a strange attractor would be influencing a system. And strange attractors in Chinese medicine are called shen. So when I said, oh, I'll just create this word shentegrity to teach tensegrity, that is where Wu Wei is. That's where the main fulcrum is. But then I said, well, then I guess I'm going to make Einstein shentropy because this is also, by the way, why I was very good, like why I'm a good information architect. But so the shentropy, the entropy column of this geometry is Newton on top as entropy, Schrodinger in the middle as negentropy. He did not identify the word negentropy, but he had an idea about it. And Einstein at the bottom as shentropy. So entropy is the most bound to gravity. Negentropy is everything growth. This is also how all yoga, how all art, like anything that would key into or activate that neuroplasticity. And then shentropy is very specifically because I did not know that Newton's original scale was 5. So I put Einstein in this bottom corner, which is where the Bagua goes, which is infinity, but it's also our genes. I'm giving you a lot of information now. All I've been doing is information architecture. But in doing the information architecture, I have also solved the 3-body problem. It's a geometry problem. It's not an astrophysics problem. Or it's an astrophysics that's done through geometry problem. But as long as gravity is only a sheet of paper, which is what a squared equation is. A squared equation is on paper. It's only 2 dimensions. You don't get into multiple dimensions until you either have a cube or some kind of Cartesian coordinates or RFIDs, or like, this is why we can't do things like just hit a button on your phone and 911 will come to you on the 53rd floor. Because your phone gives the street address, but 911 doesn't know what floor of the building you're in. We don't have altitude location yet, geolocation, but our brain has to do that for us all the time. This is why I knew how to rebuild my brain. So so now they're in a cube. Oh, that was the end of it? I paid $35 for 4 pages. Kinetic energy. I really wish I could see this. I'm understanding these papers so much more, though. The low population of higher bands is consistent with quasi, sort of, something diabatic loading procedure. The ground band. So ground band is at the bottom. The other stuff is at the top, even if it's sideways or however they're doing it. Macroscopic expansion, lattice switch experiment. This is amazing. This is truly incredible. So MIT was able to do something. They studied the scattering waves in free space. Ultra cold atoms is entropy at absolute zero. That's the third law of thermodynamics. Essentially. Oh, look at that. Heisenberg uncertainty. The number 7. The one I could never do. The Heisenberg uncertainty sits at the concept of positional tensegrity, or the way that we as an individual would experience light and sound and everything. But Heisenberg as positional tensegrity would also be all of anything that we can experience. So like the visible light spectrum. What is the amount of sound a human can perceive? What is the amount of whatever, like human, like our whole species? There are species, believe it or not, that perceive differently than we do and have consciousness. Just public. Did you hear about the octopus's garden in Australia? There's an octopus city in Australia where they have buildings and apparently have some sort of like commerce system and like all this stuff, right? The octopus's garden in the sea. I know that octopus are given psychedelics, but however an octopus experiences itself is through water. And gravity in water is different than gravity on land. And we just happen to be on land. But we are much more connected from a like amazing evolutionary perspective to orcas and pilot whales, because they have menopause and we have menopause. And that would be a loop that goes back millions and millions. I mean, that is like these major big loops of evolution, which I guess I learned by doing epigenetics and memetics. But they can predict the initial scattering. Oh, now we have a Debbie Waller, D-E-B-Y-E Waller. It's all named after people. It's all named after people. It's not even named after what they identified. So that is one way that physics perpetuates supremacy culture, is by naming it after itself, not after what it identifies. And if you play your game just right, you get big prizes too. Nobel prizes. The correction for Heisenberg is the 8-fold Nobel path, by the way. But that is the geometry that was corrupt in the Second World War. These are parameters, 50% probability, ellipses, thank you. Constructed with, I don't understand those words. B factors, give me something I can understand. Derivation, scattering experiments. We're looking at Debbie Waller factors, DWF. Debbie does Waller. Condensed matter physics is a newer field that apparently I understand. Assuming harmonicity, okay? Harmonicity is when the waves are like basically playing with each other and they're not doing the like, blah. It's not a mosh pit. But it's probably also not like a perfect grand ballroom dance waltz. They're just like, you know, they're just getting along. I don't understand. That's just how it happens. Exactly. Boltzmann distribution, zero mean. Oh, look at that. More square. Ah, there's a sine wave. I have a fix for that. It's called lambda, also known as the Joker card. The spherical geometry are only hope for understanding dimensions beyond I don't know. I understand a lot of them, and I don't do any thing with spheres other than except that that's where I hit infinity. So lambda, let me introduce you to the lambda card. Lambda is Bach, ZitterbartEscherBach. And you see lambda, that is a self-portrait of me, how I navigated the pandemic with a broken brain and solitary confinement cancer treatment because of the fucking timing. It's a very specific cognitive state. You really have to like keep yourself protected. And so this lambda here that they have, lambda is also the microwave constant of the universe, starts with lambda, cold dark matter. Lambda. So lambda is a very important concept. It aligns to my trick, which is any number to the power of 0 is 1. So it just gets you on the page. It gets you on a piece of paper. But what is your thing? The second term on the right-hand side, Poisson. Wait a minute, I remember Poissons. We were back in lattices. This is just mind-blowing. Do you guys ever read this stuff? Theories pertaining to the efficiency of motion? Oh, I have no idea. I have an idea of how you might do something like clean energy. But the practice is separating fire, not doing more math. I say that obnoxiously only because I did the thing that I did. I healed my brain. And then I experienced this weirdness in my body called the golden elixir. And then I reverse engineered the universe by building a new one. Not only here, but all that is a thought experiment. I was doing the fucking Gedonkin experiment. I literally, my whole model is based on a Gedanken experiment. I need to learn how to pronounce this. Fucking Einstein. Do you know what? He would have hated or loved me. He would have been the man, and I did this the whole time I was at doing tech in the Bay Area. Give the bigger, the better. Give me the nerds that are solving the huge, massive global problems and just speak to me while you tell me what you do and how you think about it. Engineers who are working on really big problems are coming from a place that's very artistic because you need to create context for all of it. He probably would have hated me, and that's better than being loved in thought matters. I think he would have liked me. I think his girlfriends would have felt threatened by me, but his wife would have been very grateful unless she was also a physicist. So here's my model. This is the, those stand for things that we're not going to say what they stand for. This is Einstein. He is as above. He aligns to deep learning, but also deep time. Quantum entanglement. His thought, I didn't realize that in youth, he mentally chased beams of light. Is it a relationship dissing personal biases? This is which turns into domination, submission, pain. That's how I'm oriented in certain contexts. And my consent model is apparently quantum mechanics. Shocking. The person should actually be awake and alert when they give consent. Maxwell's electrodynamics. Michael Lorentz, the fucking Lorentz transformations. Let's look at Lorentz. Lorentz transformation is not the same as the Legendre. I believe the Lorentz shows up, yes, as our corpus callosum. Which is, so the one other paper I need to find again is our whole somatosensory cortex was remapped in 2023 using fMRI technology instead of MRI technology. And shockingly, when the scientists looked at how the brain, our corpus callosum and everything, our somatosensory cortex, how that's organized, they were like, wow, that's a lot more complex than we thought. And I remember actually getting on Twitter and pinging one of the researchers who, yes, about how that finding would be so amazing. Sorry about that. How that finding would be so amazing for all motor disorders and also anything having to do with neurodivergence. So why do I think I understand a corpus callosum? Because I had a stroke. I had a stroke. It shattered my identity. It shattered my experience of space-time. It shattered my experience of self, of safety. It shattered me. But what it did not fuck up was my vagus nerve. My vagus nerve was working the whole time. So I managed to escape the situation I was in, which was very bad. It was a tech situation, shockingly. I was doing identity verification on the blockchain, global compliance, and I went from that to not being able to read a sentence. The Lorentz transformation in physics. This is when I first started to go, oh, maybe I'm actually understanding physics. Because again, I don't do math. But brains are physics. They're not, it's not mechanical engineering, and it's definitely not chemical engineering. Like when that kind of fucked up, 6-parameter oh, we're gonna do it right now. 6-parameter family of, anyway, I'll find them. But the Lorentz transformations, I created little characters based on each of these rods. There are 6 of them. Each one maps to a Lorentz transformation, shockingly. He was Dutch. He's in the special and general relativity. I don't know if my Y and Z axis are the same Y and Z axis, because I'm going from ancestries and they go by generations, and then the connection, the intersection is where that stroke card is, which is the generations of physics go across and the ancestries of Chinese medicine go up. I did not know either of those when I had my stroke. Max, okay, so the Lorentz transformation, they form a coordinate frame, a frame. In statistics, you would call that a framing effect. It's also how propaganda is constructed. It's also how movies are made. It's also how it's all framing effects. This is art. This is Aquila. This is aligned to Deneb, I believe. This might be Altair. Altair Vega. Yeah, this might be Altair. Wait. Yes, this is the Altair. So Aquila is the eagle. It's one of the constellations in the night sky that creates the summer triangle. And I was like, oh, everybody's going to want to have a Tesla 369. So I figured out Tesla 369. And what Tesla 369, though, is not linear, but what really matters is how this operates is we gestate, and I'm showing you on this map. This is based on millet, which is aligned to dusty plasma. It's the second math of China. This is your carbon. We are carbon-based, but we breathe air. So something happens when we're born that, however, the schizophrenia, what is schizophrenia? Ander, is it chronic affects how a person thinks? You think it's I'm hallucinating physics? That's unfortunate. You get a block. So the Lorentz transformation in our brain is the way that I understand it. And again, I'm just applying the word, okay? But it's very much how our corpus callosum is a air traffic control center. It is not a map. It's not just that you can cut a corpus callosum and people can walk, because it's also orienting us to which way is forward. It's orienting to, well, I do sound a little bit wacky, but it's just real dangerous to use words like that, especially when TikTok therapists are diagnosing strangers based on videos. I don't have much risk because I'm white, but if I wasn't white, I would have a great deal of risk, like life and death. So the Lorentz transformation in our corpus callosum has to do with whatever the mechanisms are that the way our corpus callosum interacts and interfaces with our salience, central executive, and default mode networks. And there was a study in 2023, which I'm very good at never being able to find. It's called the Scan Brain Discovery. The Scan Brain Discovery, again, that was a functional imaging of the somatosensory cortex, where this is called the homunculus, typically. They remapped it. They were like, oh, it's so much more complex. So imagine your corpus callosum, imagine it like the strings of a marionette, but we experience that lift through all of our tissues, through our fascia. And fascia has the same geometry as the universe, which is tensegrity. It's not math. But I don't seem to have the Scan Brain Discovery. I have to find it every time I look for it. Scan Brain Discovery 2023. It was a new somatosensory something was mapped. a new map scan brain 2023. There we go. No, these were even better. These are cell maps, but a cell map of a whole mammal brain? That's exciting. That's not what I was talking about, though. I blogged about it, like on my just bullshit KDZ blog. Let me see if I can find it. Scan brain geometry, fascia zodiac, plasma shen, Nijing 2, neuroaffective. Am I not in 23? Okay, we're getting there. 23, eustachian, negative dialectics, harmonization. Long COVID, somatics. Okay, this was after Elena died. Sentience, Shen or quantum. Default mode network. I wrote about that. Default mode network. Triple empathy. Worrying. Dissociation. Huh. That's weird. This is weird because I know that I published something on my blog. Oh, well. So new brain, am I describing how consciousness is expressed in and through the body? I am seeing if MIT's new paper that they published about Einstein being wrong is evidence for me saying that Einstein is always right. But he's not about light. Okay. I think I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, they did absolutely. And now I'll go back to the TikTok. Thank you very much, anybody who saw any part of this. Strangeness, indeed. Please reach out to me. Buy shit from me. That's the best way to support me. Okay, goodbye to the humans here.